In today's webinar, which I'd like to welcome you to, we'll discuss a very interesting and dear topic to my heart, which is Marvelous Designer. We'll focus on Marvelous Designer as a software for improving your interior renderings, your interior modelings and simulations. And we'll focus this in a very interesting direction because normally Marvelous Designer is a fabric software. What I mean by fabrics, I mean software for clothing, for characters, for realistic looking fabric. In this case, we'll use it exactly for that, but in a line of architecture, of interior. So, in other words, we're going to make a few blankets and a few pillows. I hope this is interesting for you. And if there are any questions, I'll answer them after the webinar has finished. Basically, we'll take a look over what is Marvelous Designer, how you can integrate it in an architectural pipeline in order to improve your quality. Then, of course, I'll show you how you can import this from Marvelous to 3ds Max. The approach for importing and exporting geometry is very straightforward, so no matter if you are a 3ds Max user, Maya user, any other 3D platform, it's pretty much the same type of approach. Maybe you will need to change a format or so, but it's pretty straightforward. This is the type of visualization we'll be focusing on today. We basically have the blanket and the pillow all done in Marvelous Designer and then imported in 3ds Max. Here rendered with V-Ray Next using the V-Ray scans technology. Actually, it may seem a bit complex, but this is a super straightforward pipeline, and you can very quickly achieve very interesting, very detailed results. But I forgot to say one very important thing. Who am I and who are we? I'm Kalina, and I'm part of the Ecospace team, which is the official distributor of V-Ray for Eastern Europe. We also focus on training programs, webinars, and all kinds of ways of improving your workflow. So if you're ever interested in becoming a better 3D artist or even just becoming a 3D artist, you can always find us at www.oeco.space. Then, moving back to Marvelous Designer and what is so marvelous about it. Basically, Marvelous is one of the leading softwares for fabric simulation. And by simulation, I mean that this is a different type of modeling where we don't create everything ourselves. We basically create our primitives, press, simulate, and hope that the software will do its magic. And it actually does a very good job when it comes to the magic. That's why it has become one of the industry standards when it comes to clothing, fabrics, and all kinds of flowy surfaces, let's call them. It's mostly used for gaming and character development, since it supports very good animation and can also simulate animations of the fabrics themselves. But actually, it can be widely used in interior and architectural rendering as well. Not only is it a great way to create your own primitives and create this type of fabric blanket put on a couch, which we'll do today, but you can actually go very much beyond that and use it as a basic software, creating primitives for any surface that gets step from motion. You can also use it for, of course, the details like curtains, like fabrics hanging in the closet, and so on and so on. Basically, imagination is the limit as usual. You can check out marvelousdesigner.com, which is the official website, but there you'll notice that mostly advertising its character purposes and clothing purposes. That's the reason today I want to focus on Marvelous in interiors. Because many people download from websites offering 3D geometry. Many people download very good blankets, very good bed sheets, very good curtains, but only a few know how they're actually made and how easy it is to create your own custom ones. This is done using exactly Marvelous Designer. Basically, what I need to do is first create the primitive that I'll be using for the simulation. And what I mean by primitive? If I'm doing bed sheets, I need to have the bed. If I'm doing curtains, I need to have the curtain rod, or at least the space. If I'm doing, like in this case, a couch, and on top of the couch we have a blanket and a pillow, well, I need the couch. It's very important to use real world scaling and put the geometry in above the ground position. What do I mean by that? Going quickly into 3ds Max, and see I have a chair prepared, and as I mentioned, this chair needs to um, be above the ground, and you can see here if I enable the grid, this chair is above the ground. Then it also needs to be real world scaled. This is because Marvelous, as a simulator of fabrics which are real world based, uses the real world based value. Okay, so I can create a box just for scale, and you can see that this box is 8291, 87 centimeters, and it's kind of matching the chair, so basically this chair is real world scaled. Now, the only thing I need to do is export this one as an OBJ. File, export selected. You can export the OBJ from any other software. It's not necessary to use 3ds Max. The most important thing is for it to be real world scale and be above 0 axis. Okay, so I just pick OBJ and let's name it couch for Marvelous design. Okay, save. I don't need the materials, I just need the geometry. Next part. My object is exported, so now I need to go to Marvelous Designer. Marvelous Designer looks like this, and we have two main work fields. Here will be the 3D view, and here is our 2D garment view. By garments, imagine that you see every object as a 2D object. Maybe the closest you notice to this will be it will look like an unwrap. First of all, we need to have my avatar or my basic geometry, which I'll simulate on top. So I can go add avatar, and it will allow me to pick maybe character from Marvelous. I can just go to my export from a few moments earlier and couch for MD open. It will ask me a couple of questions, and the most important thing here is that since we are working in centimeters, at least I am working in centimeters, I need to say it's okay, my object is in centimeters. And then just click OK. And here is our couch. This object now will work as a hard surface, you can say. It can be moved around, and you can even manipulate it a little, but the idea is not to remodel it. This is our baseline. Then we just need to create a blanket and a pillow on top. Since we are working with real-world scaling, I would suggest that we start with the blanket and we start with real-world scaling of the blanket. You can always go to a web page where you can check standard blanket sizes like IKEA or any other fabrics interior making company. I will start with something that I'm kind of familiar with, so my blanket would be 120 centimeters by 170 centimeters. You'll notice that it's showing the size in millimeters, so I must convert my units accordingly. Okay, so I create OK, and this will create the primitive that is my blanket. You can see it here, and you can see that in 3D space on top of my chair. So now I want to create the feeling that it's over the armrest. For this, first of all, I will rotate it, and maybe a little bit here, and position it sort of the placement I want. And now I can just click simulate. Automatically Marvelous is creating these beautiful riffles in my geometry piece. If we're speaking about a little more advanced information, you can change the type of the fabric, so it will closely resemble silk or cotton or wool or any specific fabric movement you may need. And you can also, which I'll show in a bit, change the quality. For now, I'm using, from here you can see particle distance 20, which is in millimeters, meaning that each quad, because Marvel simulates in quad, is 2 centimeters. You can see here the quad. Basically, every line here is 2 centimeters. Of course, better quality will provide better results, but it will also do a heavier simulation. While in simulate mode, we can also use our mouse, left click, to just pull it around, pull it a bit, make it more appealing in a way that we want. Okay, just you can see that sometimes it will go over the hard surface, but most importantly, it's trying to avoid it. And in cases where we have such issues, we can just pull it away and it will again look good. Okay, so let's say I'm happy with this blanket and now I want to add a pillow on top. Let's just a little bit do this. Okay, happy with this one, let's add a pillow on top. I can stop the simulation, and in order for this not to interact with the other simulation I'm doing, I'll just freeze it. Okay, now it's inactive. Even if I start the simulation, nothing is happening to this one. I can just maybe put a little bit on top. Because I didn't like the intersection, I'll unfreeze it. And now if I press simulate again, you see that it's basically using gravity as its main force. Okay. Have in mind that in simulation, while it is simulating, you don't have Control Z unless you stop the simulation. So whenever you like something, just stop simulating and this will sort of make a safe zone. Okay. Now let's again freeze and add a pillow. I suggest, in order to make it more realistic, using some kind of a scaling for the pillow as well. Real world scaling, in this case, I'll do a big pillow, 70 by 50 centimeters. Okay. I have the pillow bottom created, and a pillow is normally made from 2 pieces at least. So I'll just do a symmetric pattern with tuning, meaning that both are instanced, if you like to say, and what I do to one will affect the other as well. I need to position them in a way that they will fall on top of my couch and invert so the normals are facing each other, which will be the inside of my pillow. Okay, putting it here. Now we need to sew. Marvelous designer sewing uses the same logic as you would sew in the real world. So actually any small experience when it comes to sewing is super useful here, but you can pretty well manage without also because now it has creating these seams, which when I press simulate will pull the geometry together, creating the effect. Okay. One thing you notice is that this pillow is just a pillow case. You can always do a basic geometry which to put the pillowcase on top, but another thing we can do here in Marvels is adding pressure. For this I need to select basic geometries, and in the properties I have the option to add pressure. Imagine it as I'm adding pressurized air between the 2 pieces. Each piece is trying to pull away. Let's start with the value of 4, for example. Now let's change it. You notice that my pillow is much flowier. It's so flowier that it's trying to escape. Stopping the simulation, bringing it back. Okay. But sort of put it on the place where we'd like to see the pillow, but at least giving it some flow to foam. Okay, what do we see here? That the pressure is for only on the one piece, and it's not. See, Now I have the air inside the boat. Marvelous is creating these gorgeous ruffles in the fabric. Now we just need to put our pillow place we like. You have full control by touching here, pressing there. Great. I, for now I think we can be happy with this pillow, and I can even add a little bit more ruffling just by pressing, selecting a few lines, okay, and adding an elastic property to them, which as an elastic added to your sweatpants basically put it together. Using just these basic techniques, now I'll unfreeze the pillow, the blanket, press simulate, so they can interact together. Using just these basic techniques, you can create very interesting setups with blankets, with bed sheets, with all of the above. Now, what you need to do is basically make this a better quality for the export if you like what you see. And as we mentioned, this is done by changing the particle distance. Smaller numbers give you better quality, but are slower to simulate. And then selecting this one, same thing, particle distance, pressing simulate again so the ruffles will become a bit better. You notice how they're starting to look much more realistic. You can, of course, always go with smaller values, even if they're smaller than this. It will take a bit of time. The results are worth it. Now we need to export this. In order to do so, I'll just click select the pieces. Okay, I've selected the geometry and file export. OBJ selected. Let's call it blanket pillow. Yeah. Okay. Save. All patterns, single object or multiple objects, whatever you prefer. In this case, single, thin, so it's normal geometry, doesn't add any additional thickness to the geometry, and in centimeter. Okay, done. Now we go back to Max, say File, import, going to our main folder, sorry, wrong folder, pillow, blank pillow, new, open, yes please, import. Since our chair was above the ground, it was great, or very well positioned. You can see that even the pillow, even the blanket are just at the right spot. Now what we need to do is convert this to an editable poly. Maybe going into the editable poly, select the blanket and separate it as a different entity. Touch, blanket, okay. And then one thing to have in mind is that you can always model this geometry now being an editable poly as a typical 3ds Max geometry. So if, for example, here I have a little bit of overlapping, I can just use a soft brush and change it, or use shift to just move it a bit in any way I want. Basically manipulate it in any way that I want to have. That I want to have. Few things you need to know. It's super okay if you don't like it to add another level of turbo smoothing on top. The geometry will become very detailed, but it can be a big improvement from time to time. And a very important thing is that Marvel Designer actually has awesome UV coordinates when it comes to its geometry. You just need to have in mind that when you import them in Max, they're kind of big. So you can just use this and rescale it back to the 001 UV space. And now you can see those are very well unwrapped pieces of geometry. From then on, you can add lights, you can add materials. I want to show you my created theme. Basic setup. Since this since this webinar is focusing on marbles, I just want to show you my already made theme with a couple of V-Ray shaders and a couple of V-Ray lights, but I've basically used just the original ones. Here, same way of simulating the geometry. Just press render interactively. This is just different build, different blanket, because that's one of the beauties of simulation, that you always have the touch of magic. And this is pillow and blanket done in the same way on the same couch. And you can also notice the original render, which was part of our marketing. So this is the same approach, same way of creating pillow, blanket on the same chair. So the results are endless, limitless, and always changing depending on your level of expertise. From then on, after you've optimized the object, it's a poly. You can see it here. It can be exported as a V-Ray proxy, it can be exported in other softwares. I'm personally using V-Ray. You can use any other render engine, as this is just a geometry piece, not a shader, not a light setup. Okay. So this Marvelous is a wonderful software to integrate in your pipeline, not only if you're doing plotting, but also for interior visualization, for exterior visualization, and any detailed work you may have. You can always go subscribe to our channel where this webinar will be uploaded, and also you get another idea of great tips and tricks on how to optimize your workflow and how to achieve better results. We also have an upcoming rendering with V-Ray for 3ds Max class here at EcoSpace Sofia, where you can join us next week for 4 days, 4 hours each day, advanced rendering in V-Ray for interiors, where we'll also see some marvelous designer geometry, we'll explore some Max features, and basically be going over the whole pipeline in creating your visualizations and making them better. Besides this, if you're more interested in us and the trainings we make here, you can go and check us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and follow us because we really like you and we really want to be friends. So go, find us, and check out Marvelous Designer for your next project. You can also go to our website to check us for your next work improvement. I want to thank you for being for this short time with me. If you have any technical questions after this, you can find it the webpage, and for any sales questions, you can find my colleagues at sales@aeco.space.